Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth.
Hey guys, welcome to Oxford from the Inside, the good, the bad, but always the truth. Today we're joined with Abbie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Abbie and I'm a third year at Trinity College studying English.
Um, nice. So today we're going to be talking about finding your interests in English. This episode is mainly targeted for students in their sixth form, thinking about applying for English, trying to work out whether they should. Yes, first question, how would you go about finding your interests in English, Abbie?
So let me just find the, the
Yeah.
information. How do you find so I was thinking about questions that you could ask yourself if you're someone that wants to do English at university but doesn't have any particular area that floats their boat and you think that you kind of need one. Um, or you would like to develop more interest outside of your schoolwork. I think a good place to start is, why do you want to study English anyway? At university? What I guess you're going to have a reason why you enjoy the subject, and what naturally interests you. So what are the books, the or plays or poetry? What are you already enjoying, and what do you already like to read, or yeah, what do you already enjoy, and also what elements of what you're already studying at school do you really enjoy, and you just kind of naturally, you're enthusiastic about it, you want to lean into it a little bit more. um, and also, is there like a particular historical period, particular texts or particular ideas or questions that you find interesting and you kind of want to think about more? um, yeah, so I think those kind of things, if you've got things that answers to those questions of what you're already doing that is kind of interesting, that you kind of want to pursue, that's your answer. You just go for it, basically. Yeah.
Nice. What were there any things like so? Those are the advice that you would give, and were there any things that you yourself were naturally interested in, elements of the school work from English or maybe other subjects that you found interesting, as such as like the as you said, any particular historical periods, particular texts, or particular ideas?
Yeah, so at the risk of me just rambling about my life for a while, I yeah, I basically, the reason I ended up sort of liking English was when I was about in year 9. I heard of like Jane Eyre, Jane Austen. I heard these names. I was like, that's so confusing. Why do they sound the same? This, I don't know what this is. Um, and then basically, a friend of mine at school had got Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen as a Christmas present. She was reading it in school, and I thought, right, if you can read it, I can read it. So I sort of dove into Jane Austen, and I'm one of those people that was my sort of like first love, Jane Austen. And then I started reading all these, just like, I think I got presents for Christmas, which are like novels from the same like time period. I started reading all these 19th century novels. So that was kind of how I just really love these books. Then I found out that there was like period drama TV shows about all of them as well. So that's what I really enjoyed, and I think massively helped me like at school as well. And um, yeah, that's what I kind of was really interested in. Um, as for what I was studying at school, what did we do? Um, no, I can't remember. Oh, because one of the big things was we did Hamlet at school, and I found it. We had to. One of the things had to do is like do a bit of research about context. So when I was revising for Hamlet, I sort of dove into all these websites about like random context for Hamlet, and I found all this stuff. That was something I really enjoyed, and I was suddenly like, oh, this whole like the early modern period, which is like the Tudor period. Um, that's I just found it really interesting, and the historical stuff, I really enjoyed that specific period, and that's kind of what I'm doing now in my third year. I'm doing a lot of early modern stuff. So um, that's an example of something from school. Like, um, like we studied Great Gatsby, and I read some of what's the name, Fitzgerald's other novels, and just other things like that. You know, I listen to podcasts as well. So podcasts are a great thing to listen to. For that was very self-reflexive, wasn't it? Yeah, but just yeah. So I literally just put Hamlet or Christina Rossetti into the podcast app, and just a bunch of stuff came up. So things like that. I don't know. Yeah, just basically the 19th century was kind of my jam, and I really enjoyed that the novels gave me quite a lot of detailed knowledge about social history from this period, and I just found it really cool, and yeah, that's what I enjoyed.
So, like, are you saying that from like reading books like Jane Austen, you can learn a lot of social history, like from fictional books? Is that the case?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that is,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah, definitely, because they're written in that context about, especially Jane Austen is kind of about, she's sort of poking fun at society. So there's all this real information about how like sort of upper class society worked, which I didn't know any about. And yeah, I just enjoyed like history documentaries and stuff. I'm quite nerdy. I just like all of that history stuff, social history thing. So yeah, I just think whatever it is, like I never cared about plays in my life apart from Shakespeare. I never did any plays, but there are other people on my course who did loads of really interested in like weird modern theatre and stuff like that. So I just think whatever you've done at school or you've come across that is just really that you enjoy and you find interesting, like it's not rocket science, just dive into it really. It's like find out more about it, like just develop, I guess, a knowledge and enthusiasm for that thing, and you can branch out, and it's so useful later on. Yeah, when you have this like knowledge and appreciation for stuff.
nice. It's quite relevant to the episode title, finding interest in English. I've also recently been getting into
Find some interest in English is basically my answer.
I also got Pride and Prejudice for Christmas present last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was
Oh, have you read it?
I read it. Yeah, throughout lockdown. I thought it was great. I thought it was amazing. I think one of the key things
Good answer.
I think one of the key things I took from it was I think before reading Jane Austen, there's a lot of times in my life that I'd think, well, am I reading into this too much, or is something happening here that I can't really explain? And then you realise something was happening, and she describes it in her own way, which is great.
It's such a clever. It's constructed in such a clever. Like there's just so much going on. I love it. Sorry. Okay, this is not just going to turn into Pride and Prejudice fangirling.
I'm reading Persuasion at the moment. Have you read Persuasion?
Yes, I have.
Nice.
That's very nice.
It reminds me of Adele's song of When We Were Young on repeat. I have to say a little bit, but we'll see how the book goes.
Oh, Siam, why don't we start a book review podcast? A book club?
We could start.
This is not a bad idea.
This isn't a bad idea. And I think my finals are like...
Everybody stay tuned for the book club.
Stay tuned for the book club. All right.
All of the listeners.
We'll put that on the drawing board for sure. But anyways, back to the podcast. So you're suggesting that students should go above and beyond in like diving into their interests, and why would you say that people should do that? Why should they go above and beyond in these kind of ways?
So I sort of think like if you're going to do a degree in something, you definitely need to make sure that you like the degree and that you're enjoying it, because it's only speaking for Oxford, it's really, really, really hard at some points, and you sort of need to remember why you love it. And sorry, I'm trying to read the bullet point. yeah, so doing a degree is best when you genuinely care about it, and definitely when you sort of are doing the degree and you sort of come across something maybe in something new that you're reading. Oh, that's like that other thing that I read once. Or if you do a lot of extra reading outside and just can generally make links. I just think the more reading you do, you're just in a better position in general, to be honest. It's so good. Yeah, and that's such a great feeling of like being able to like make link. Maybe not, it's not enough particularly academic astute link, but it's just in your own mind to be able to go like, oh, that's reminds me of this, that's cool. Yeah, also it's great when you start, you know, you get a reading list and then you suddenly realize, oh, this is something I already know and love. That's a great feeling. And also when you at some points you get a freedom to kind of go off on your own, do what you like and do your own thing. And it's really great if you can dig into something that you know exactly where you would want to go, and you've got something to write about that you're genuinely interested in. So I did an example of this. I'm writing at the moment an essay about makeup in Shakespeare and cosmetics, and I have already done this. Basically, the first time I did cosmetics in history was in my GCSE English language. I did a presentation about the history of makeup, so it's really nice. I just find that really interesting. Yeah, it's just nice to go back and kind of not revisit, because you do get in trouble if you just copy stuff that you did at A level. I've also made that mistake, and that doesn't go very well. But yeah, it's nice to have knowledge. Also, you know, a lot of Oxford life is like living one essay crisis to the next, and it's nice to remember that while it feels really stressful and hard a lot of the time, it's nice to have these moments where the genuine love for your subject kind of comes bubbling up. Yeah, and just you will be miserable doing a degree if you don't actually enjoy the degree. So I think this will help you have confidence that you do enjoy it and there are things that you love, and there is a reason why you're spending so much time and energy trying to do this degree. There's
Nice.
you do care about it. So yeah, but I think that's kind of stating that I just think finding your own interest, what's the point of doing a degree if you're not genuinely interested in it.
Mm. No, I definitely agree with the idea that you know, like, to find your interest, you just have to, well, follow or whatever like, I know, spring causes that eureka moment. And I guess for you it sounds like cosmetics, like it's not the most obvious thing, but sometimes it's the strange things that just really appeal to us, that and our interests are like really like behind on the other side of that. And if you keep following what seems to interest you, you just find that you're in a very, very niche part, like looking into niche things that really represent you as a person eventually, if you keep going and going for it.
Yeah,
You know.
that's why academics end up writing books and spending like 20 years researching like the most random specific things is because they've just followed their nose all the way to that point. So that's all I'm really saying. It's just like whatever it is that kind of is like a little spark, or like, oh, that's cool. Just follow if you can, and if you have time, and if if your work allows, just follow that, and it will allow it. um and yeah, that's kind of how to do it. Don't just do, basically you get out what you put in, and if you come to things with an enthusiasm and with a, oh yeah, there's that part which is rubbish and boring or too hard, but this part I find really cool, and you go for that part and you just follow your nose but you just your gut instinct into that part, then it will be fun and worthwhile.
um, nice. Yeah, no, of course. What was I going to say? Did you? Oh yes. Did you have any opinions or like what about the Great Gatsby and Scott Fitzgerald in general?
mm, I remember when I was reading it when I was in A level, I just kept on coming across this idea all the time of appearance and reality. So I end up writing the same essay over and over again, and I just write about ideals and appearances and things looking shiny and amazing and actually being gritty and horrible. That was basically what I would write about in all of my A-level essays. So I read some other what's his name? F. Scott Fitzgerald. You can tell I haven't touched it since I was in school. And I read also, one of the things I read was a short story that he's written called Babylon Reborn or Revisited. I don't know, have you heard of that?
I remember you sent me your essay, so yeah, I read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
It was very interesting. Just for anyone out there who's happy knows what she's doing.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, so Babylon Revisited is set. So The Great Gatsby is very famous for being all about the excess and craziness of the 1920s, and about how it's very like iconic, and we all love, the flappers and the champagne and all that. And as we know, in 1929, it all disappears because of the Great Depression. And Babylon Revisited is just a short story about somebody who has been involved in this like party lifestyle, coming back in the early 30s into the Depression. And I can't really remember he's created a mess by being this like party animal. And it's just all about the sort of ruins that followed this like crazy party sort of dream. And I actually, in my personal statement, I did a whole thing about appearance and reality, and this idea of like glossiness and like excess versus like and I also followed it up with we did David Copperfield in school, and I read Great Expectations because there's a poem that we did in school about a character from Great Expectations who's very interesting. So those two kind of parts of my A-level kind of merged, and I read Great Expectations. And also, I'm just going to go into my my personal statement. So basically, at the end of I'm going to spoil the end of Great Expectations if I do this. Basically, something bad happens in the end of Great Expectations.
I'm wanting to read that, so we shouldn't do the spoiler.
Okay, I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it, but initially, so Dickens writes the ending and he writes a bad thing, and he showed it to everybody, all of his like mates, and they were all like, and his wife, he showed his wife, and she was like, you've got to change the ending. We can't cope with the ending. It's too sad. So then he changed it and made it into a happy ending, changed the bad thing. And I just found that so funny that there's, he's got this is the bad thing is more realistic, and it, that's more true to real life. It's more true to it actually weakens the story really to have it end happily, but he changed it because we just can't cope with the idea of things being bad. So anyway, this is not
wow.
I guess the point is that was in various ways I sort of took what I was doing at school and like followed them through and just like followed the threads until I ended up with this whole thing about appearance and reality. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you've got any threads to follow, go and follow them. And the other thing is, don't feel guilty about it taking up time away from your precious A-levels, because you'll be fine. and it'll probably just make you better at your A-levels. And when you're writing your coursework about Great Gatsby, you can add all this extra stuff in and it'll be really impressive. So more impressive. So yes, that was what I was going to say.
And how you will spend your time will be more meaningful if you have lots of interests. So go find them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes A-levels less miserable if you genuinely care about them and enjoy them for what they are, rather than just about getting an A star.
So is there a version where you can read the old ending? Does that exist? For the Great Expectations?
I have no idea. I literally read this on Wikipedia. Maybe I've just completely made that up. I'm pretty sure I saw it on Wikipedia.
Okay, so
I have no academic writing of this. This is before I had access to Solo and like, the academic journals and things when I came to Oxford. So nice. Yeah, I got that off Wikipedia.
What I was going to say, so you said before that you advise students who think about applying to English to, well, not literally, but reading more books is almost always a good thing in general. But obviously some books really aren't related to an English degree. Like, I know if you read a chemistry textbook, that wouldn't really help with your. So,
No,
which
that's
no,
why I don't read chemistry textbooks.
well, I wasn't saying that you do, but I'm just saying that
I don't.
which which discourses or which topics fall under the umbrella of English language and literature that would be relevant to the degree.
Um, I think it's less about what discipline your book falls under, as to like, is it relevant to the question of what you're talking about? I read a history book because I was doing a French topic. I was doing a project about Eleanor of Aquitaine, who's a medieval queen, and I read a historic. This isn't anything to do with English actually, but do you know what I mean? Like, I think whatever text it is that is relevant to, I was just like, I need some historical information about this person. I'll go find a historical book about her. So it was, I guess, just about. So if you have an interest in chemistry, go read a chemistry textbook. That's. But I just think it's whatever is relevant to the idea that you're trying to follow through, I guess.
So choosing your end idea that you're interested in and then working out how to get there rather than looking at the things that you're told that are to do with English and then sort of, as in searching for the ends rather than the means to the ends, that and you're not really
Yeah,
sure
I
which end.
guess.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, or just yeah, like not being. Oh, here's top 10 books that English A-level students are meant to read. I'll go and read them all. You could definitely, I'm sure it would be really helpful to do that, but in my experience, I don't have time, or I don't set aside the time. I don't have enough self-control to do that. I have so many books on my shelf over there, which I said to myself, that'll be useful to read before my finals. I should read them, and I have not read them. Um, so, it's yeah. But if there's a particular idea or an author or a book that you really like, um, or a play, I keep on forgetting about plays and poetry. Those things, follow them through, I think, rather than, yeah, like you say, being prescriptive about it. Like, at the end of the day, it's your life. If you want to read of something, read it. If you don't. It's not like you have to follow the rules.
Definitely. We've got here. Is there any other advice that you have? We've got a few bullet points that you had beforehand.
Yeah, so I wrote down some caveats to this because I don't know if people might be listening to this and feeling like under pressure to do extra work, or extra like pressure to. It freaks me out sometimes when I hear people talking about, I'm super passionate about my job or my degree, and they talk for ages about how much they love it, and I'm like, I don't love it that much. I love it a bit, but. So my first thing is, don't feel pressure to 100% love it all the time, because I don't. There's parts of it that I really don't like. And also that, yeah, you don't have to be this like super incredible person that reads everything all the time and is always spending all their time, that never procrastinates and always gives in all their work on time and all this type of stuff, because that's also probably not realistic. You don't have to have everything figured out before you come to uni, so you'll learn so much when you're at uni, and also you hopefully will get to the end of the degree and you'll realize that you're quite stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you get to the end of your undergrad degree and you think, I know everything now, then you've kind of missed the point. And I guess the point of it is that you realize, oh no, there's a whole world out there of like this stuff, and I'm just sort of like trying to swim my way through this murky pool of academia. So
Poetic.
yeah, you don't. Sorry.
It's very poetic.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, you don't have to have it all. And also maybe you sat there thinking, okay, I don't have a strong preference for anything, and I'm gonna start my English degree. I had really the reason that it was the only reason I had a preference for 19th century is because that's what I'd read. I hadn't read a lot of other stuff. So during the course of your degree, at least in Oxford, and I'm sure for other degrees, you cover a whole 1,000-year history of the English language. So you will learn so many new things and like read so many things that you've never even heard of. So an example would be, at the beginning of my degree, I thought like the early 19th century was going to be my thing. And I thought about writing my dissertation on the Romantic poets, and honestly, it was just too hard. So now I just realized that the early modern period I really find it really interesting, and I like writing about it. I wrote a lot about theatre, which I said I didn't used to do that. I didn't care about plays at all, and now I'm like, wow, theatres. So yeah, like it's my preferences have changed a lot, and going into the future, like if I was to do more studying, would probably on like the Reformation. I find that really cool. So yeah, like you will definitely. I mean, this is kind of obvious. You will obviously like change over that time, and so you don't have to have it all figured out before you go to uni. Oh yeah, and also if you feel that you really just don't when you start at uni,
Or
try and make an
start that bit
effort in
again.
your first year. Oh,
Start, just you froze there. Just
okay.
start
I
that
was gonna
sentence
say, okay, if you really feel like you don't have any particular interests or anything that really is exciting to you during when you start during the first year. So in my first year, I did the 19th century, like the whole, like Old English, so like Beowulf and that type of stuff. But so I did 200 years, including the 19th century, which was my period of expertise. And I think you should try to have a super positive, open mindset about it, and try and enjoy it, try and go above and beyond, try and think critically. Do I like this or do I not like this? Does this interest me? Are there things that I would like to dig into here? I did not do that in my first year, mainly just because I was freaking out and I was just like, I can't do it. I've struggled quite a lot academically in my first year, and I wish looking back that I had a better mindset about it all. But there we are. Part of the reason why the early modern period became my thing was because of that was when I started to feel more comfortable, was when we happened to be doing that in our course, so it was partly just that was the circumstances.
And it's a common feeling amongst almost everyone that first year is tough for anyone listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
For all unis, and I think that's why first year doesn't count, because it's the idea that you're getting to with the grip of things. But we're running out of time. Just very quickly, our last question. The question is, did you read any books? But I'm sure that's a yes. So,
imagine if nope, I didn't.
No books, no plays, no poets. You just turned up, and you're like, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll take you."
I can speak English, so that's why they let me in.
Nice. Which books did you read that helped you when finding interests and applying, and probably for your personal statement?
Yeah, so I think I've got 2 ideas for books that would help to give you like a broad overview of stuff, so that maybe somewhere in that broad overview there would be something to like go into. So I have one of them here, which is this very short introduction to English literature. So it's part of these very short introductions which are on all sorts of topics, and it basically just I can't even remember because I read it so long ago, but just goes through various ideas like narrative, plot, character, and then it talks about basically just goes through a broad history of English literature and sort of takes you through the main like movements like Romanticism and things like that. So definitely I read this at the beginning of year 13. It was really good. I've underlined it lots. So yeah, I would recommend reading this. There's also a version about literary theory, which I have not read. Siam has read it, or some of it, and I imagine that would be amazing. So I'd recommend that too.
That is amazing. I recommend. I think the summary of what I've taken from it is which ideas from different humanities can you apply to other ideas, and the writer describes that as theory, and then those ideas that you can attack literary texts. Therefore, is literary theory. So I really like philosophy, and it's really cool that you can see these like postmodernist philosophers just deciding that they're going to start criticizing other people that they have nothing to do with, and then there's other people like, oh, who do you think you are, and then start to read their work and go, oh, maybe we can actually maybe use a little bit of this. This looks quite interesting, and then just like Freud's psychoanalysis, and then continental philosophy, and it's cool. It's cool how it all overlaps a little bit. And it's all theoretical though. So it's end of the day, it could all be wrong, but that's part of the fun. But,
So I studied that in my second term at Oxford, and I didn't know what theory was. What is critical theory? I had no idea. It's basically just applying weird ideas, weird ways of looking at texts to the text. I still find it terrifying. It's really scary and intimidating. I find some people there's one on my course who loves it. I do not. But a book that really helped me, which I don't have with me right now, is called Beginning Theory by a guy called Peter Barry. And it just goes through a lot of these movements. So feminist, post-colonial, just deconstructionalist, queer theory, like a bunch of these different theories, and this summarizes the key text on it. So I was given the primary text to read, and I couldn't make head nor tail of them. This book helped me so much. So if you are maybe interested in one of those theories or the idea of theory, like that's definitely a good one. Introduction. It's called Beginning Theory. So to find a broader interest, but those are both this isn't by no means essential to like getting into Oxford or anything like that at all. I'm just sort of talking like if you felt like literary theory was going to be your thing, that would be an example of something that you could read. So
and me personally, the only reason why it really took my fancy is because most of my degree, chemistry, is theoretical. So it was like there's more theory, but attacking text rather than molecules. So and it's crazy what happens when you follow what you're interested in. You just find yourself in weird and wonderful places.
Reading literature.
It all boils down to literature until the next episode of Finding Your Interests. And what was I going to say? I think that's the end. Yes, that is.
Can I just say?
Yes, go.
I have just my golden rule, which is if you're going to take one thing from this, it's a very culturally trendy answer. Just be yourself. Find your what is interesting to you. Find it by just like following the little thread through, and just go for it. Read about it, watch stuff about it, listen to stuff about it, talk to people about it, and that's what you should do. Just go for it. What do you enjoy thinking, reading, writing about, and what do you think is worth thinking, reading, writing about? Go for it.
Nice.
That's my goal.
And writing down those ideas that seemed, that's a good idea. Having a little collection of good ideas, because then you look back at it, you're like, oh, past me knew what was going on. I should do that.
Do you know what I did? I made a blog, which I have not shown to anybody, so nobody's ever seen this, which was just, I got to the beginning of year 13 and thought, I haven't read any books for ages. I need to learn how to read. So then I would just read a book and then just write my thoughts on it. And that's exactly what you're talking about, like just writing down thoughts and like thinking through things, almost thinking out loud, but like thinking to a blog. It helped. Nice. Okay, I'll shut up now.
No, obviously it's a beautiful golden rule. But that's all that we have time for. Thanks for the viewers for watching, whether it's on your podcast or YouTube or whatever platform. And follow us on Instagram at Oxford from the Inside or YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.